Man, that sunset is gorgeous.
Grill, patio, sunset. Hard to get better than that. Unless you're browsing Carvana's inventory while you soak it all in.
Oh, burger time.
So sit back, get comfortable. Carvana's got thousands of cars under $20,000 just waiting for you.
I could stay here forever.
Carvana, where car buying meets comfort, meets convenience. Download the app or visit Carvana.com today. The comfort of your favorite seat is now your comfy car selling command center, thanks to Carvana.
It doesn't get any better than this.
Your favorite seat's the best spot in the house. Make it even better by entering your license plate or VIN and getting a real offer in minutes.
There really is no place like home.
And speaking of home, Carvana will pick up your car from yours after you finalize your offer. Visit Carvana.com or download the app and sell your car from your comfy place.
July 7th of 1995 saw the opening of the science fiction horror film Species. The feature film quickly became MGM's biggest opening at that time. The plot revolved around a secret US government program that engineered a living organism from the combination of human and alien DNA. The hybrid creature goes on a rampage through the city of Los Angeles, leaving a trail of bodies and blood behind it. A similar situation would seemingly unfold in reality on the island of Puerto Rico just 1 month later. August of that very same year would see a flood of reports of a shadowy creature that locals had marked as responsible for a number of mysterious livestock deaths in the months prior, where it was claimed that at least some of the bodies had been completely drained of blood. Townspeople from around the capital city of San Juan would report identifying the menacing creature by its glowing red eyes and scale-covered body. A creature that should not have existed outside of twisted nightmares or on a movie screen. This case file joined the Theorists as they play catch-up from December's Ron Pond fan pick and bring you the supernatural sanguine saga of the Chupacabra.
Welcome to Alien Theorists Theorizing Case File 219, Chupacabra. I'm Braden.
I'm Zell.
I'm Dan.
And I'm Andrew.
All aboard.
Woo! Live from Meteor Studios.
Sailing at the
in orbit.
USS Meteor, 120,000 meters above Earth. Direct link with the James Webb Telescope and Starlink satellites.
Yeah. It's now easier for us to all be on here remotely since we all have our own designated LCD monitors.
2 from the floor, 2 from the ceiling.
Yeah, we had their RCA though. We
cheaped out. We went to Zellers.
We cheaped out, right?
Can't afford Samsungs.
Is Zellers still around?
Too much.
Is that
no?
Yeah, in the Bay. If you go to the Bay, they have a little Zellers corner sometimes.
Are you serious?
Dan, did you ever have Zellers?
You're telling me that there's still a place where the lowest price is the law?
Yeah,
that's
best real.
Best slogan.
They have a little throwback corner, and it's like Zellers, and it's all Zellers brand and stuff in the Bay.
Wow.
Dan, did you have Zellers in the States?
Not on the East Coast. I don't know about the West Coast though.
I think it was Canadian.
Boys.
I think it was
Is it
Canadian.
just a Canadian? It might
have just been Canadian.
I've never heard of Zellers until you've just.
Well, let me tell you how good Zellers was. It was so good that it started to fail, and then Target bought all the Zellers and then moved into the old Zellers, and actually was worse than Zellers, and immediately had to shut down all their stores in Canada.
Well, it's because they didn't have they didn't have the diner, man. That's what sank their ship.
Yeah, they didn't bring back the Zellers diner. That was the first mistake. Get grilled cheese and mushroom soup.
Yeah.
Bomb.
Fuck, you get haircuts in there. It was a one-stop shop, really.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, they did. They had the quick cuts.
Yeah.
Great spot.
Our boy George used to work there. Just buzz cuts, man.
George. George.
He's old George. Chupacabra. This one's an interesting one because this is a big one. When we first threw this one out, I was like, we haven't talked about Chupacabra once. I'm sure we've done a case file on it. Nope.
Never done it.
I don't know how it slipped through the cracks. I mean,
we kept saying we're going to do it, and then we just never did it until now.
Well, it's always one we kind of pushed off because our eyes making the decisions on the kind of the episode content. It's always kind of wanted to push this one off until you could do it real justice and really get into it. Since it's one of the, the Chupacabra is the third best known cryptid.
Yeah, he's one of the forefathers of cryptids.
True. Right after
him,
Bigfoot, aka
and Mothman,
and Bigfoot and the Loch Ness Monster.
Oh, Ogopogo.
Which is crazy to think about too, because like doing this, I was shocked when I found out how old the actual name and like the mythos behind the Chupacabra is.
I'm older than Chupacabra.
That's what I'm saying. We all are. It's crazy. What is it, in the 90s?
It's a new cryptid.
Yeah,
dude, the popularity of this one just blew up. Like it's crazy.
Well, because it's got like chicks dig it, man.
Yeah.
Chupacabra, gonna reach out and grab you. It's a fucking banger, boys. It's a great tune.
So the Chupacabra really first gained real notoriety in 1995. So some other people and some other researchers will kind of try to push the date back to maybe 10 years, like 1980s. Some will say as early as 1970 that you had other kind of similar events that occurred that kind of pointed towards some type of blood-sucking creature. But the Chupacabra, the creature, and what you see when you Google it and you see the picture of the Chupacabra, that one actually started in 1995 in Puerto Rico. So
which one are we talking about? Are we talking about the fucking barbecued greyhound looking one?
No, the one, it's like the lizard with the, we share the same body type, except he's a little smaller, real thick, curvy. He's got the spines on the back.
Powerful lower body.
Are you saying you personally share a body type with Chupacabra?
That's what we have. Yeah. Chupacabra is just like mini me.
I bet you guys are probably about exact the same amount of slimy.
Yeah, BJ Chupacabra. Like
slug trails everywhere.
BJ Chupacabra, yeah.
Same
slug
thing.
trails everywhere. So it's not a slug trail, it's a Jesus.
Photography.
It's the fucking COVID film.
If you split it up, it's a little bit better, yeah.
Yeah, Andrew did join the COVID train here, but he's on the mend.
The COVID kid, I'm back.
So the Chupacabra had its heyday for about 5 years, and it was reported in a number of places, not just Puerto Rico, but you had reports from Mexico, Chile, Nicaragua, Spain, Argentina, Brazil, and Florida, among other places.
I like how you said all of those. Perfect.
What?
I like how you said them all.
Yeah.
I did.
It was nice.
I mean, not only most of those places you have Florida, but there's also, more recent reports place it in places in like southern Texas and those areas in the United States. So it still continues. Sightings of the Chupacabra still continue. It's just those 5 years, from 95 to 2000 were the Chupacabra.
That was the
pandemonium.
That was the Chupacabra flap, as we like to say.
It was really starting to spread out from wherever it originated.
Now, for being the third best known monster in the world, according to some researchers, you have a number of descriptions about what the Chupacabra looks like. And you can probably break them down into about 3 different categories about what the appearance of the Chupacabra is. So you have probably what is best known as kind of like, you could probably say it's the original form of the Chupacabra. And that would probably be the one that we mentioned before that is Braden's body type, the 5 foot tall bipedal creature with long claws, a row of spikes down its back, which is
that right there. Imagine. So except you can see his, the real Chupacabra, you can see his pronounced spine a little more, but very similar.
And this was the original one that was reported in 1995 by the Puerto Rican eyewitness Madeline Tolentino, which we'll get into a little bit later. The second form that's usually mentioned that you'll also see kind of pop up in a quick image search of the Chupacabra, you'll see another form which resembles very much a creature from the earthly Canidae family. So, including the one that looks like a shrivel up dog or coyote or some kind of a hybrid mix.
Kind of looks like it looks like Lupin when he turns into the werewolf. Right? Like that's in the movie totally looks like that. Just a fucking skinny little weirdo dog.
Yeah, some type of skinny, hairless looking canine form creature. And then there's a third category where you could really put as a really kind of catch-all for most of these sightings of the Chupacabra that people report that, surrounding any type of strange, mysterious event involving dead livestock and, half-glimpsed shadows in the darkness. And then that is automatically the Chupacabra.
Well, you start to get the descriptions of like a mix of the two, the dog and the weird reptilian, some, claim wings. You get all sorts of varying degrees of monster that stretches. That's all kind of underneath the umbrella of Chupacabra.
Yeah, but for the most part, when you think of Chupacabra, you do think of that hunched over creature with the spiky back and the claws and like the red eyes. That's what I think.
I think of it fucking like an emaciated looking dag.
That might have been the first one that you saw.
Yeah,
that's what my head goes.
Well, there's
to,
there's like they say like that's a Chupacabra, but that's obviously a dog. That one.
Or is it?
I mean, it looks just like a dog or a coyote. But
when I picture the Chupacabra, I definitely picture some of the usual description. It's a little bit closer to the what you would get from a book, George Eberhardt's Mysterious Creatures, A Guide to Cryptozoology. And you have a description in there of this kind of large round head, these huge lidless eyes that glow red. That's what I've always associated with the Chupacabra, always being kind of the hallmark, the glowing red eyes seen in the darkness. Again, the spikes, the row of spines kind of running down the back. It's obviously hairless or scaly, like resembling some type of reptilian creature. And then it's got the sharp protruding fangs, in order for it to catch its prey and suck out its blood as it's wont to do. And sometimes there's like sometimes there's webbing like between the toes. It's not quite sure because it always could there's always kind of, is the Chupacabra amphibious? Like, is it is it aquatic or something like that? So I've always kind of
lives
seen those.
Deep down in some of those cenotes.
Oh shit.
Perhaps, yeah.
You jumped in one of those. That's terrifying. I don't know about that.
Yeah, that's true. We did. Could have got taken.
If we're talking about the very first, to get really into it, the very first reports of the Chupacabra come from around March of 1995, where you had residents from small towns named Orocovis and Morovis, which were discovering residents discovered a number of their farm animals had apparently been or reportedly been drained of blood through small puncture wounds and some of the corpses. Now, the name Chupacabra is a lot of people, there's still kind of dispute about where the name Chupacabra kind of popped up to. There's a number of people outlets that would attribute the name Chupacabra coming from Puerto Rican comedian Silverio Perez, who claimed that he coined the title shortly after the first attacks had actually become public. But then there's other like cryptozoologists and other kind of news reporters that say that they coined the term. So it's very much but it's in there. But
there was some confusion because I believe they called a farmer in the area Chingacabra, and they're like, but it wasn't his MO. So, the police let him off.
Chingacabra?
Yeah. Goat fucker.
Go.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you don't know, if you don't
there you
understand, if you're not fluent in Spanish, you don't know. But I mean, most people know it's chupa. Chupa is to suck, and then
Chupa
cabra,
chups.
cabra is goat. So you have like the goat sucker because it was associated mostly with the dead goats had seemed to become the primary prey of this creature.
Right. So
I was reading something that said that the oldest, they actually found that it was used in an episode of Bonanza way back, and that was the first mention of it.
But there is a mention of that, but it's also that specific mention of the Chupacabra doesn't refer to the creature. It refers to something
it doesn't.
else.
No, but that's where they use it. It was like a bug.
Right.
That they
Right.
yeah.
So now Chupacabra translates to goat sucker, but now it's just been like taken as a cryptid, and it could be taken any type of livestock or birds or anything.
Yeah, it does not only the victims of the Chupacabra are not only just goats. Like it is very much like mostly livestock. But you have reports of attacks on goats, chickens, cows, even domesticated pets like cats, household pets and things like that. So it doesn't just suck goats. It chupas everything.
And in the chupa to chupa, buddy. And this area, it was so bad that like they would have like guards like go out with like armed through the night because of the amount of livestock that were getting seemingly drained in this area. So it was like, this isn't just like a one-off, like, hey, this is weird. Like locals were concerned enough about this ongoing issue that they began to, basically have like neighborhood watch going on, livestock watch, roaming around with, guns out ready to blast this thing.
Yeah, the entire episode of cattle mutilations went on for 6 months until somebody finally caught a glimpse of what they assumed had been causing all this. So this is where Madeline Tolentino comes in, and she lived in a city east of the island's capital, San Juan, and the others, she kind of gave it its name of like what it was. So Tolentino described the Chupacabra that she saw having dark eyes that went up to as far as the temples. So usually the picture that is kind of sketched out from her thing is like, if you imagine the archetypal gray alien,
those big
if you picture
eyes.
that, the kind of large bulbous head, and then the eyes that kind of reach up and almost wrap around the head, like that's kind of what she saw. And then this creature, when she saw it through a window of what she was looking at, she said it was about 4 feet high. It seemed to walk like a human on two legs. It had these thin, gangly arms and legs. It had 3 fingers on its fingers and toes on the end of each limb. It had no ears or nose to speak of. And then instead it just had 2 small air holes where the nose is meant to be. And then she couldn't see any ears to speak of. And then she also noted that there appeared to be something along the back, and this is where you get the description of the spikes that appeared to her. She said she describes them as more like feathers, but some type of protrusions, long spindly protrusions sticking out of the back of this creature.
My brain always jumps to like, this sounds like what intelligent life could have developed from if dinosaurs didn't go extinct. Like this is like these reptilian little things on 2 feet creeping around. Like that's where my brain goes right away, is that these are
I already had that conversation. We already talked about it. And they look like the Mario Brothers movie.
Yeah.
They look like regular people.
And it's funny too, because it kind of touches on like when we talked to Michael Masters, and basically we evolved to the point where we don't normally reproduce like we do now, right? And the one thing this lady notes is that it had no genitalia.
Oh,
Yes.
shit.
Right?
She did report that, she noted that in her description and in interviews that, she got a glimpse at like where normally at least for earth creatures, where the genitalia would be, there was nothing. It was just smooth.
Maybe it's just like an innie.
Could be. I mean, you look at dolphins, like you don't see anything hanging out.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So here's kind of a sketch of
Yeah. See?
Yeah, it looks exactly like Braden. That's
Braden right there.
That is the exact build.
Thick thighs, thick waist,
Yeah.
Skinny
like
forearms.
like a pear.
Quite pear-shaped, and then it has the big, elongated, like almond eyes. This looks like more like a kind of like a hefty short gray. Well, it looks like with a couple extra.
It looks like some
spines.
sort of short gray variant, to be honest.
Yeah, with raptor legs and fucking claws and shit.
Yeah, man, heat resistant gray. Like if we're talking about the grays are maybe artificially produced, and they're designed and created, maybe there are certain grays they change models for different specifics of what they're doing.
This is the blood extraction.
It's like when you go to buy GI Joes and they just paint them different colors, and you're just like,
dude, they did that to us for years.
I know,
and you kept buying them. You kept buying them.
I bought them all. Got them over my shoulder.
Got them right there over his shoulder.
Fuck yeah.
So yeah, that whole, like the early days of the Chupacabra were pretty nuts. So you had a bunch of reports coming in of people sighting this creature, or at least the glowing eyes of some type of creature all across like Puerto Rico. It even got to a point where one of the Puerto Rican government officials, the mayor of San Juan, Jose Chimo Soto, felt like the government needed to step in. And Jose Soto is described as being a religious man, and there was a reverend at the time kind of preaching that the Chupacabra was a sign of the end times. So there are some reports that kind of put Jose Soto in the back of a pickup truck with a giant cross, going around with a bunch of Chupacabra posses and hunting for the creature out in the dark of the night. So.
They've like Jurassic Park style. Some of the documentaries that I was watching, it was him in the back of like an old like Tacoma, probably Zell's Tacoma, with a trailer on the back with a caged goat. And they would just like be driving around, and he's just chilling in the back with a giant cross, right? Like just, I don't know what was he going to do with the club it, maybe. Yeah. But it's like
dude, he's got the power of Jesus.
Yeah,
he's fine.
The power of Christ compels you. Boom.
It's weird though, because I was like, while they're towing a trailer with the goat in it, I'm like, what thing is going to come up to like a posse and be like try to get at this goat, right? Like, I'm like, it doesn't seem like a good plan. But this mayor was fucking dope. Like his whole platform was like ran on this. Like he's gonna catch this.
He was up for re-election the next year, so he felt like he may have felt like this was a good time to capitalize, or he was out there trying to protect his constituents from the demonic beast known as the
This is what you do. This is what you do, church people. This is fucking cool. Don't go knocking on doors, handing out fucking pamphlets. Don't go all Westboro Baptist and fucking do hate crimes and hold signs. Go hunting for fucking evil cryptids.
Yeah.
This is fucking cool. I will join that church. That's fucking awesome.
That's our church right there.
And speaking of politicians, I don't want any of these signs at the end of the road. I want to see you in the back, standing in the back of a Toyota Tacoma with a caged goat trying to attract Bigfoot, holding a weapon that's not suited to hunt the creature you're looking for.
Don't give Rick Dyer any ideas now. So following this whole thing, all the events of 1995, you have in March in 1996, you have Spanish language talk show host Cristina Saralegui. And on her popular show, Cristina, which is essentially like, if I remember that show. I never really watched it a lot, but I've seen... because it's on Spanish speaking TV, I've seen a couple pieces of it, and it's basically she was kind of like the Oprah for most of like Central and South America. Like I remember her.
She was the Christina, all right?
Right, she was the Christina.
She was the Christina.
And so she actually aired a story.
So she's just standing out there handing out chupacabras to everybody.
Oh no! You get a chupacabra. You get a chupacabra. You get a chupacabra. She actually aired a story about the events that took place in Puerto Rico, about the goat sucker, the chupacabra. And this was followed almost immediately by an increase of reports throughout Mexico and Spanish-speaking areas in the United States of sightings of the chupacabra.
That makes so much sense, because every time my mom would watch Oprah, and there would be like an event, and there'd be some shit going on. There'd be like, oh, they're trying to, there's kidnappers in the streets. And I'd have to check in with my mom every 20 minutes when I was outside. Like that's hilarious.
So it's not like, I mean, if you do a quick Google search for Chupacabra, you're going to get a number of regional like Chupacabra like variations and things like this. But you'll have a Chupacabra almost like all up and down from Canada all the way down to like Argentina. You'll have a Chupacabra of those areas. Like there is a Chupacabra of Canada. There is a Chupacabra of, different parts
name's
of the
Braden.
United States.
Yeah, they got him right here.
Yeah.
It's Craig. Craig Cabra.
Though the vast majority of them do come from reports come from Spanish speaking or Portuguese speaking areas, and so I mean, have what it is. That kind of seems like what if that's where the original Chupacabra is sighted, maybe that's its more natural habitat. We'll get into theories about why other ones kind of pop up in other places a little bit later, but so. In 1996, this became such a phenomenon that a team of scientific investigators.
In everyone's got Chupacabra merch, T-shirts, hit songs, right? Cartoons. Chupacabra hit. He made it big time.
It pretty much.
Dude, he's in Scooby Doo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
If you're a cryptid, you make it on Scooby Doo. If the Scooby and the gang's after you, you made it.
Yeah, you made it for sure.
So you had a team of scientific investigators in Mexico City, Patricia and Mario Mendez Acosta, who began an actual search for the beast. They were taking this seriously, and they felt like they were going to go and find this and try to track it down. So according to a report that was printed in Skeptical Inquirer magazine in 1996, the team said that they staked out a number of farmyards where the goat sucker had reportedly struck animals, but pretty much the only predators that they caught were wild dogs each time. That was the only thing that they caught while they were out there.
Well, they're more common.
Yeah, Chupacabra is way smarter than a regular dog. It's not going to get caught in a trap.
Dags are pretty smart.
So
some dags.
Especially wild ones.
Some dags.
Especially wild ones.
I'm telling you right now, with no skill at all, I could make a trap that catches a wild dog. No problem.
A slab of meat?
Some meat, a cage, and a little stick with a rope, and I pull it when it goes in. Done.
You're not wrong.
You could also, but for argument's sake here, you would probably get caught in one of those too. So let's be honest.
It depends what's in there.
What type of cut we talking here?
Meat.
Yeah.
Ribeye? Braden's in there.
So I put a big slab of ribs out there, smothered in barbecue sauce. You're either going to catch Bigfoot or Braden.
If there's M&Ms out there in the heat, I'm not going to let them melt.
Dude, wild dogs are crazy resourceful and they're super smart. Like, we're not talking about somebody's fucking Shih Tzu just galloping around, right? Like, these wild dogs are smart.
So you would have, this kind of begins like what I would kind of see as like the evidence collecting, and it would start kind of piling up starting in 1996. So the first appearance in the United States of the Chupacabra was reported to have been in Miami on March 11th, 1996, where there was a number of animal attacks. So you had researcher Virgilio Sanchez Osquejo of the Miami UFO Center take a look at where the locations that these creatures had been killed, and he took plaster casts of some tracks that seemed to have been left by the beast that had done this. And he compared these to some of the tracks that had been taken from a Chupacabra sighting in Calama, Chile. And he concluded that these tracks belonged to some type of unknown and perhaps extraterrestrial creature, that they didn't look like anything that he would recognize as terrestrial. I don't know if he had a picture. Oh, I guess I sent the picture to our group chat, but it's way back there.
Yeah, I don't got that up.
It was one of the first ones I sent to the thing when I was researching.
Well, it doesn't matter. Anyone watching the live stream probably wouldn't recognize it as terrestrial anyways.
No, probably wouldn't. Now you had these reports of the, like I just mentioned, was the sighting of the Chupacabra in Calama, Chile in April of 2000. Now you had unverified reports that said that as many as 300 animals were found dead, like a complete slaughter of livestock that were attributed to the Chupacabra. No one actually saw the attacks, but residents did report hearing terrifying sounds throughout the night during the murders.
Cattle getting slaughtered, probably, is what they heard.
Drained dry.
Screams and of pain.
Now, when you say slaughtered, were they ripped apart or were they drained of the blood?
They found them dead. It's not, they weren't ripped apart or anything like that. It was just the basic calling card of a Chupacabra, left there, maybe small puncture wounds somewhere on the body. And then these animals were dead.
From what I understand, they're normally on the neck, the puncture wounds.
Mainly on the neck and in other places of the body. It depends on, which report you're getting.
Well, if they're draining blood, it makes sense if you're like, from experience, you go for a high, you go for a high flow artery, neck's great. Neck's very accessible. I mean, it's right there. Can't really miss it. You can like see it bulging. Easy.
And people
easy there. When's the last time you fed?
It's been a long couple months with the new offspring. Getting a little hungry.
So in this case, local officials got involved as well. So you had the local governor, Francisco Segovia, who called for an investigation of these animal murders, so these cattle mutilations, and announced that those footprints that they had taken, the cast of the footprints had been taken. They sent those to an investigations lab to get analyzed and to kind of figure out what they were. So in June, the investigation was concluded, and then the what was announced was that these animals had been killed by feral dogs.
See, but the thing for me about this is I'm like,
feral dogs?
Feral dogs, because I'm like, why? Like cats will kill for fun. Like cats will kill just for the hell of it, but like dogs don't usually do that. They kill to eat and stuff. So it's like, if they're just out there slaughtering like whole herds, like why aren't they eating some of them? Why aren't they eating some of them?
Like they're rabid, I'd imagine.
Yeah, but you get a fucking pack of rabid dogs.
Yeah, but how much was like in the scene, like in this like murder scene of the livestock? Was it like super bloody? They said like they seemed like they were sucked dry.
Well, see, like when you look at that though, like I did a little bit of research into that, and I guess like canids, and especially like you probably have seen it from experience too. Like when you look at a dog attack, dogs go for the neck, right? And normally all you see is 2 puncture wounds. And the majority of the damage done by dogs is internal damage. It's not a big, gross, bloody scene where they split open another dog's neck or another animal's neck. Now, smaller animals like a chicken or a cat, yeah, they'll grab them and shake them around. It could be a little bit more gruesome. But for the most part, when dogs attack, they attack on the neck, puncture the neck, while they grip on and shake them around and break their neck.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But say you have this pack of rabid dogs and they're killing everything. You think eventually one would like not hit, like if you bite the back of the neck, I could see it. Like, but if one got on the side and they actually got like a vein, you think there would be at least some of those killed animals would have started spurting.
Or partially eaten. You know what I mean? Like when they get there, they're like, hey, some of these are, a wild animal obviously ate these things because, like they're just killed and then they're like, all right, cool. On to the next farm, boys.
Yeah, but that's what, like when a pit bull attacks, does the pit bull fucking eat the other dog?
Well, a pit bull attack's different because the other dog is usually, their face looks like a flap of meat.
And this is thing, so it's like this is a pack of dogs like just roaming around.
Potentially, yeah.
Right?
But like when dogs attack, they don't eat the other fucking dog, even when they're wild dogs. Like they just attack.
They fight.
Other dogs.
A rabid, aggressive dog.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. But other animals, like that same with cats and shit like that, right? They just want to kill it. Like when I let my dog loose, my dog wants, when he sees a bird, he wants to fucking kill it. No reason why,
bird,
but that's what he wants to do. That's his
squirrel
instinct.
Or something. Yeah.
Yeah, like they just want to kill it.
No, but we're talking stuff that's bigger than a dog here, right?
Yeah.
Well, I can't argue with that. I'm just saying from looking into this with the puncture wounds in the neck, that's kind of what makes sense to me.
So I will say that most of the reports, like it's not, when you say livestock includes like mostly like sheep, goats, and like chickens is the primary victims of the chupacabra seem to be. Like it's not usually cattle.
Not usually cattle.
Okay.
Not usually cattle. You usually like, because I kind of made that mistake.
Dude, goats are agile as fuck too.
Yeah, they are, but I'm saying that they are smaller, and like you could like, it could be younger goats, it could be something like that. But it's usually, I'm saying that when I think of livestock, when a lot of these reports, when they mention livestock, I automatically to my head is cattle, like large cows and bulls and stuff like that. But
and that's not necessarily the case.
Also means smaller animals, like smaller food animals.
Sure.
But those are mainly the main cases that you hear about the chupacabra. It's usually chickens, and it's usually because it's the chupacabra,
well,
so it's
chickens,
chicken, goats,
listen,
and like sheep.
Who gives a fuck? Who gives a cluck?
The chupacabra does. Like,
but that's what I'm saying. It's like if I came out and there was like a my chicken coop, all my chickens were gone. I was like, dude, that could have been a ferret, a mongoose, or a coyote, a cougar. You know what I mean? Like any animal that gets in there, like any predator, they just shred all the chickens. Like that's not, to me, like a chicken coop getting like ambushed isn't like, oh shit, like this is only a cryptid could have done that. I would like lean towards like some sort of little predator, probably a mongoose or a ferret or something of that nature got in there and just was wrangling chickens.
Yeah, I could see like if a dog got in a chicken coop, you got carnage for sure.
Yeah.
The chickens got nowhere to go. I mean, chickens, they're hard to catch, but if they're cooped up, a dog's gonna get a bunch. They can fucking just grab them, fucking
ship them around. That's a problem, man. Like you get coyotes getting to chicken coops all the times.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So like when I like chickens and like small stuff that's usually like, has its where they can't get away, I don't really put much stock into like, oh, that had to be a cryptid. Like unless it was like weird where it's like all their heads were perfectly cut off and like left aside, like maybe, but it's
their eyes sucked out or something.
Their eyes sucked out, yeah, right. Just their beaks removed, something weird. You know what I mean? Like that'd be weird. But it's when we get into the bigger stuff where I'm kind of like, all right, well, that thing could have run away. Like, that's kind of weird. It's drained, like blood strained out. Then it's kind of weird. Like, if the chickens were just like drained of blood, I'm like, okay, well, that's weird. Like, because I bet the chickens were fucking mangled.
Right.
So, if you get into this one, like, if you for this case file, it's like if you wanted me to talk about if you want us to talk about every single sighting of the chupacabra that ever happened, we'd be here for 6 hours.
Yeah.
And so. I tried to stick to the ones mainly that kind of presented the best evidence. So the first one, like I just mentioned, was you had the footprints. And so probably the next best thing that you would want after this kind of, the superficial evidence, the footprints, you need actual physical evidence. You need a body. And so that's probably something that's the next sighting that is probably the most important one. And we can talk to that one after a break.
After a quick beer. We'll get to some chupacabra bodies. We'll be right back.
The comfort of your favorite seat is now your comfy car selling command center, thanks to Carvana.
It doesn't get any better than this.
Your favorite seat's the best spot in the house. Make it even better by entering your license plate or VIN and getting a real offer in minutes.
There really is no place like home.
And speaking of home, Carvana will pick up your car from yours after you finalize your offer. Visit Carvana.com or download the app and sell your car from your comfy place.
Man, that sunset is gorgeous.
Grill, patio, sunset. Hard to get better than that. Unless you're browsing Carvana's inventory while you soak it all in.
Oh, burger time.
So sit back, get comfortable. Carvana's got thousands of cars under $20,000 just waiting for you.
I could stay here forever.
Carvana, where car buying meets comfort meets convenience. Download the app or visit Carvana.com today.
We back.
And we're back with a body. So you need a body to any kind of to take something seriously, especially in the cryptid community. You're going to need a body And so
What? This is like the only body we have of all cryptids.
No, we just talked about a body last week.
we talked about two bodies.
Which ones?
The Bigfoot bodies.
Double.
yeah.
World's greatest tracker, Bigfoot tracker.
Optimus Prime.
The
okay,
master
yeah.
tracker.
But seriously, like this is like the only body of a fucking cryptid that we have that's been like shared.
So we mentioned the second form of the Chupacabra, the one that resembles the one that you'll search up if you search up Chupacabra. This image sits right next to the one that we showed you earlier of the tropical thunder gray alien, and so this one popped up around late August of 2000. So you had this farmer named Jorge Talavera who had suffered the loss of some of his livestock, and some of these the animal killings had kind of increased, and then they had the little odd twist, of course, the hallmark of the Chupacabra, that some of these animals appeared to have been bled dry, that there was no blood at any of the kill sites. So according to Talavera, you had in 15 days, this creature or the attacks had sucked 25 sheep, and he had a neighbor that he reported lost 35 sheep in 10 days. Now, on the evening of August 25th, Talavera decided he'd had enough and that him and a friend were going to stake out his ranch and try to catch this predator that was, attacking directly him and his, essentially his livelihood, the livestock that he was keeping on his farm. Now, they caught sight of this beast, according to him, and they described it as having the head of a bull, rose-colored teeth, probably from blood. I mean, I assume they were coated in blood. It seemed to have hairless, leathery skin, which he compared to that of like a bat or like a bat's wing, and this bumpy crocodile-like crest that ran down its spine.
That's the most terrifying description
No kidding.
I've ever heard. Let's go through that slowly. A head of a bull.
Yes.
Like with horns, obviously with horns.
Yeah.
Some bloody ass teeth coming out of that mouth. Hairless bat skin. And crocodile like scales down the back. Like that's insane. Yeah. Terrifying.
So Talavera reported that he opened fired on this suspected Chupacabra.
I would have opened fire anyways. Jesus.
And he said that they hit him. According to him, quote, "We shot at them in the distance. We hit one and wounded it, but they both ran away," because there was two of them that he said, and they ran away out into the pitch black darkness, and they couldn't catch them without losing them.
Should have brought a giant cross. We'd be talking about a fucking
in the back of
that thing
Tacoma.
mounted. Thing would have had it mounted on his fucking wall.
So now 3 days later, while tending to some chores, apparently a ranch hand named Jairo Garcia noticed some vultures circling suspiciously at a distance. So he followed the circling vultures, assuming there had been some, there's a dead animal of some type, or there had been some type of death of maybe a livestock again. And then when he followed the trail of these vultures, he followed them to a small cave and to the near skeletal remains inside. Now, so they actually found a body
Chupacabra.
Of the Chupacabra. That's what they came to the conclusion, that this was the Chupacabra that they had shot 3 nights earlier. And so, this was a historical this was a scientific, what was it? Like a historical event of scientific significance, I suppose.
Massive.
And they decided, so you'd finally killed the Chupacabra. This is what it was. Now, they had the remains taken to a local university, the National Autonomous University of Nicaragua, where biologist Pedrarias Davila examined the body.
Okay.
And so the study went on until September 6th, where they concluded their examination. And zoologist Edmundo Torres stated that
it's a brand new species, undiscovered, had not ET-DNA, not from this planet, and unquestionable Chupacabra.
Did he say it was a man-created beast where they must have sewn the head on successfully from a bull onto the body of an alligator and a dog.
Close, but no. What they actually said was, quote, "It's a dog without any room for doubt. This is a common dog. There are no fangs or anything that could suck blood."
All right, what do you mean common dog? There's no way it's common. It has no hair. It's hairless. Got a ridge on its back. What fucking common dog is this?
The issue I have is that the like original description of this thing is so vivid that the fact that they would even look at this thing in the daylight and go, yeah, this has to be the same thing, when it obviously wasn't, because obviously this thing didn't have the fucking head of a bull, it didn't have crocodile scales, like.
Was it already, like you were saying, Dan, I don't know what the timeline was, but you said it was decomposing. You said it was like skeletal remains.
3 days from when the time was shot.
Yeah, so
but
3
they
days
weren't
of
quite sure. Like they weren't quite sure whether that one that had been that had been discovered in the cave was actually the same one that they had shot. That was the question.
3 days worth of decomposition. You could look at that thing and be like, maybe that's the thing we shot, right? Mm-hmm. It's going to be hard to fucking recognize after 3 days.
And yeah, so I mean, they had only pretty much partially skeletal remains is what they had when it was delivered to them. And there's no mention of what, the most conclusive of evidence that we have access to now, through investigative science, DNA. There's no mention of any DNA being taken or analyzed during this investigation of the remains of what was said to be the Chupacabra. But
it definitely can't be the one that they shot, because 3 days it would not be skeletal remains. Unless dogs decompose at a rapid fucking rate.
Or got picked clean by buzzards.
There's not a fucking chance. Or this dog got killed by whatever the fuck they shot.
Or maybe it was the dark and they fucking were a little bit fired up and thought they saw something a little bit more grandiose than they did.
They were on the tequila and
maybe. The wacky tobacco.
Yeah.
So far we've had footprints, you had an actual body, but we finally get DNA evidence from a actual, claim to be Chupacabra as, in 2007. So in 2007, you had a resident of a small Texas town of Cuero named Phyllis Kenyon. And she had been dealing with a number of animals that had been preying on her cats and small livestock. So like chickens and some goats and whatnot. So she reported seeing a few times a bluish gray hairless animal, 3 of them, it would turn out to be, lurking around her ranch. And she had suspected that these were the creatures that had been killing more than 24 of her chickens. She actually set up a video camera in order to try and catch these creatures on tape, but to no avail. She got no video evidence of a creature coming in and killing her things. But July 14, 2007 rolls around and Phyllis got a call from a neighbor telling her that a strange animal had been found lying pretty much on the road. Now, she actually kind of found this creature and concluded pretty much, she called her brother. She said she called her brother, kind of described the animal, what had been going on. And she said that her brother told her, kind of confirmed for her that no, that behavior matches the Chupacabra. Like, you have got a Chupacabra. You've got the dead animals, that you've got the dead livestock that appear to, in bloodless, have been attacked, and all the kill sites have pretty much been bloodless, or whether they have been assumed drained of blood. And you've got a Chupacabra. That's what you've got in the thing. So Phyllis took the remains, or I should say, well, most of the remains. She pretty much she kept the severed head of the animal in her freezer and would apparently trot it out for kind of curiosity seekers and whatnot after she kind of reported the story.
Did she keep it in a freezer and then move it with a forklift as a sideshow and then charge?
That's what she should have done.
Yeah. She should have contacted Rick Dyer.
Yeah.
And him and her could have gone coast to coast. Bigfoot and Chupacabra.
Frozen he would have just fucking stuffed it in an empty gorilla suit. Used it as fucking extra meat.
But she did manage to send samples of the monster skin and muscle tissue to a biologist at a university for DNA analysis. The actual analysis was paid for by San Antonio television station KENS, and the testing was done by Michael Forstner, a PhD and a professor in the Department of Biology at Texas State University, San Marcos. Now, they had an actual, this was kind of a big story at the time. And in order to kind of prove that claim, you had an actual special report that was aired on Halloween night about
that they led up to it. Like, this is huge. They had findings, because why else would they announce a special report about this thing on Halloween night?
Fuck yeah.
The monsters are real.
And it was presented by San Antonio reporter Joe Conger, who, talked to Forstner and talked about Forstner's report, and that the DNA sequence was virtually an identical match to the DNA of a coyote.
Oh, a coyote?
Don't lead me on like that and then drop a coyote. So and they're 100% sure about this.
To quote Forstner,
I mean, Wiley, he was bipedal.
Yeah,
this is true.
He was, right?
It's not unheard of.
To give a little insight,
he takes all his aggression out on livestock because he can't get that fucking roadrunner. So when he's done, he just goes on like massacre sprees because he's so mad. Like, fuck,
it's catharsis. It's to kill him. To quote Forstner in his report, he talked about quote, in this case, we had the material. I mean, it's a vertebrate. It's not going to be hard to match this. There are markers for mitochondrial DNA that are easy enough to match against almost any vertebrate on the planet. And those are available in GenBank. And we went to work, and indeed, that's pretty much where we ended up. This is,
so is GenBank, that must be like a global database for DNA or something?
Yeah, it's just like a database of it's like a DNA from different organisms and things like that. Assume it is this. I've heard about it. I think I've heard about it.
So when you do your DNA test of what are those DNA tests?
21andMe?
23.
I don't think those
they check. They go, okay, well, this guy's not a coyote.
Yeah, they check everyone.
Well,
everyone's installed in there.
They do it they have dogs though. You can get your genetic testing for your dog.
You're like, your dog's 1/16 Chupacabra.
Yeah, there you go. No, you can't do that. A lot of people do that when they get rescues because they want to know what kind of dag they have.
Actually, that is something that kind of Canyon had the idea of. Now, Canyon, being a responsible person, she didn't really take the first explanation, at face value. She felt like she needed another kind of independent confirmation about what she had seen. She had the feeling that this was not a dog. This was not a coyote. It looked too strange. It didn't resemble a coyote in any way to her. And so she spent $1,000 of her own money to have another sample analyzed at a genetics lab at the University of California at Davis. Now, these results came back and they were virtually identical to those released by the University of Texas. But with a tiny little twist, they said that the coyote was only, the genetic material of the coyote was only on the maternal side.
Oh, so we got a half coyote, half chupacabra.
You got a chupacabra daddy?
And the paternal
They're out there fornicating
side
with the coyotes.
Was a
chupacabra.
Mexican wolf.
Ugh.
Oh, shit.
Wait, there's a
Maybe that's what maybe that's how you make a chupacabra. Maybe it's like a liger. Fucking coyote and a wolf make a chupacabra.
The strength and power of a tiger mixed with the speed and finesse of a lion is equal to the whatever is of a coyote and whatever is of a Mexican wolf.
Yeah. And then that offspring has to mate with some sort of crocodile or alligator.
And then you got yourself a fucking chupacabra.
Yeah. And then that offspring of the two.
And so, Canyon, being skeptical of the first results, and highly vocal about it, she accepted these results. So, I mean, you had things, and this kind of came out as what it is. I did find something interesting, talking about the, addressing the genetic tests that were done on the material. They were saying that geneticists, when they talk about these things, they were talking about how we can get so far into the genetic, like the genetics of dogs and like canidae, like they've been studied to a point that you actually can go back like hundreds of thousands of years in a canine's genetic legacy. Like you can go all the way back in their genetic history. And so this they say it gets a little bit confusing because you're not quite sure what you're looking at, since pretty much it seems that, wolves, coyotes, domestic dogs, all of those types of, are all able to interbreed to some extent. So they were saying that, you could be looking at these things like that Mexican wolf and the coyote, like that interbreeding could have happened hundreds of thousands of years ago. Mm-hmm. And you wouldn't, it would still show up in the DNA. You'd still have the markers, but it's very much like, I mean, if you think about like our DNA, and it's like you can still find markers like, geneticists are always saying like we're finding pieces of other hominids inside our DNA and our history, which I found that pretty interesting, that you can kind of go back that far and find those still remains in the genetic record of a creature. I thought that was pretty neat.
That is cool.
So now we've had all the kind of evidence trying to stack up. Well, we had footprints, we had a body, we had DNA taken from what was alleged Chupacabra. And you kind of end up with, it's still, the thing is, the legend of the Chupacabra persists. It's still here.
Because it's fucking real.
I'm pretty sure you will still get reports of Chupacabra sightings from all over the world, essentially. I'm pretty sure like you not just in, North, Central and South America, you still get reports from, places like Spain. You'll get reports from anywhere about some sort of reptilian red-eyed creature running around sucking blood.
Well, the thing is, like, when you look at this case and this creature, it's like, for me looking at it, outside of the first initial report and then leading up to the, where the Chupacabra blows up with the Christine TV show, and then you just kind of, you hear it everywhere. I believe that first encounter. And the thing is, I think this gets too tied in with cattle mutilation, which it still happens. There's mysterious cattle mutilations reported up until, like, I think the most recent one I saw was late last year in Oregon. There was a couple cattle in Oregon that have turned up and then have baffled ranchers and authorities. But these things, still always happen. And back then you have these livestock drained of blood, and you have this, this sighting of this weird looking reptilian beast of some kind. Now, I believe that if you're going to attribute anything of like that's a Chupacabra, I'm going to say that first sighting was the Chupacabra. The other ones going to dogs and stuff, I think this is just I don't want to say mass hysteria or anything, or people believe, because I do believe there is cattle mutilations in other places where potentially, there is some UFO activity or alien activity that are coming down and mutilating these cattle. But I think these are getting unfairly or not attributed to sick wild dogs that have mange and look hideous. Dogs with mange and especially if they're emaciated a little bit, like they look skinny, like they start to not really look like dogs. They look freaky. It's sad. Don't look it up. It's heartbreaking. But I think that's where a lot of these Chupacabras, and it's like switched over time from this alien looking thing to the common looking dog. Now, the thing that I want to get into before you go, hey, Chupacabra's not real. We have all this evidence. The body was fake. The footprints are questionable. The DNA was a dog. The thing that I always lean back to is that first report, they had a whole town and a mayor driving around in a Ford whatever with a cross because their livestock were not being killed and murdered, being drained of blood. right? Like that's what we got to remember. They were being drained of blood.
I got a question about that
know.
too. Yeah, but I got a question about that too, because it's so like, to me, it makes me wonder how well do these people know like the decomposition process? Because like for the most part, how long have these animals been dead for?
Overnight.
Right? Let's say, so they've been dead overnight. Let's say they died early in the evening. We've had, these, I don't know what it's like. I don't know what ranching or whatever looks like in Mexico or these areas. But, like, look at, I've been forced to watch a fucking god-awful show, fucking Yellowstone, way too many times. And you look at these fucking vast areas, right? Where you have your cattle out and you've got to fucking set out for, at least over an hour to go check on your livestock, right? So in my head, you've got quite a substantial time before you get out to see all your cattle, right? Okay, you find them down. We don't know. Let's say it's been 8-9 hours since you've seen them. Maybe it's been 24 hours since you've seen them last. And you go and they've been drained of blood. And when I was reading, a lot of the ranchers would say they would take a knife and poke them and say, look, no blood on the knife. Well, and it depends what stage of decomposition these are, because a lot of times this could just be lividity. All the blood's pooled down to the lower, the bottoms of the body, and there is no
Isn't
fucking
there a
blood
term for
there.
that? Is it livor mortis?
It's called lividity.
Yeah. There's like rigor mortis, and then there's also liver mortis, right? Like liver mortis, LIVOR.
I'm not sure. Okay. I don't know. That's what we call it when the blood pools to the bottom is lividity. But that does look like the blood's been drained out of them. Like you look when we show up and a person's been dead for, let's say over 8-9 hours, and you look at them initially, they're ghostly white. They look like they've been drained of blood. And then you look underneath them and that's where all the blood's pooled to the bottom.
Yeah, but wouldn't
right?
If you found your livestock and you moved them, wouldn't you see the blood pooled at the bottom?
Well, it depends, right? It depends if you pick them up and flip them over, but we don't know exactly, right? Like they were just going off of potentially, like this is what I'm curious about. Is this just their initial assessment when they walk in and be like, holy fuck, these things are ghostly white. Let me check. Oh, I don't see any blood.
I'm going to say over the course of 6 months of this town's livestock being mutilated, that they didn't just leave them all laying there. I'm sure they flipped the couple over and like we're examining them for why they died.
Well, exactly. And not every single one of them died of being drained of blood, right? There was a substantial amount.
Or they did die of all being drained of blood. Or there
but they didn't.
Or there is
not all the
Chupacabra.
Dude, the mayor, they were so spooked. The mayor was driving around in the back of a pickup truck with a giant cross because they thought they were being plagued by demons.
Yeah, but that's every single thing we've talked about with these mass hysteria situations.
There were few
right?
to no records of professional necropsies being done on these bodies, on any of the livestock. So you didn't have medical professionals going over some of these bodies. It might have been, like Andrew said, like preliminary assessments, like looking at it, poking at it, like you see the puncture wounds. You would think normally your mind automatically means like, well, there's puncture wounds on the neck, fucking vampires. There should be blood everywhere.
Yep.
Or it should be dribbling out or something like that, but there's no blood. But what I learned while researching this is actually isn't like puncture wounds are kind of the least likely to bleed.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, especially when you look at a dog attack, they have the 2 canine fucking puncture wounds. There's barely any blood anywhere.
Unless they hit some type of
main artery, right? Yes.
So my thoughts on this initial sighting is this is where my brain went to. It's either some sort of alien gray variant of some kind, and maybe you can attribute these kind of things to cattle mutilations just around everywhere. Or we were talking on ATT Confidential, Patreon only, no big deal, about the Mexico zone of silence, where in this zone there's weird, roving magnetic fields that knock out radios and television signals and does all sorts of weird stuff. And in this area, the fauna and like animal life,
tortoises
grow different. They get bigger. The cactus that are normally green, they turn purple. When you look at Puerto Rico is one of the corners of the Bermuda Triangle. So,
which is set squarely in Craig's Triangle.
Which is set squarely in the roving Craig's Triangle.
Wait, I thought it was the Craig's Pyramid.
Let's come on. Let's not. Let's not get into semantics here.
It's a fluid
term.
Okay. Yeah.
But my thought process was that that I always go to that first description as what I base on the Chupacabra.
Agreed.
And you start to look at the webbed hands and stuff, and we talk that maybe it is aquatic. Well, if you look at that area of the Bermuda Triangle, and if we look at what we know about the Mexico Silent Zone, that whatever's happening there, mineral deposits or whatever, is affecting the growth of animals and plants and fauna, maybe the same issues that are happening in the Bermuda Triangle are affecting underwater life, aquatic life in the area. And this thing is just that. It's some sort of aquatic land animal, reptile that comes out, nibbles some blood at night like a vampire bat, and then slips back into the water in the evenings.
What better way to hide? What better way to hide?
And then you're down in the ocean. We're not seeing it. So that's kind of where my brain went to, is that maybe this thing in the Bermuda Triangle is either coming through a vortex, some sort of weird chain of evolution, but maybe there's not as many of them. I don't believe that these chupacabras are roaming Mexico, Texas, Arizona. There's a Canadian chupacabra. I don't believe that unless we're talking extraterrestrial. I believe that this thing is the one that was identified in Puerto Rico. I believe it has something to do with the Bermuda Triangle. That's my personal belief.
You got some thinning of the veil or a different dimension intertwining with our own?
Possibly. That there isn't some just weird creatures growing in the Bermuda Triangle that have developed differently due to whatever the fuck is going on. I don't know.
I like that. So what else we got on Chupacabra here?
Yeah. Let's go back from final thoughts to more.
That wasn't even my final thought. That was just a tangent. That was a random tangent I had.
Okay. All right. Okay.
I got a way more put together final thought, asshole.
All right, buddy.
You just wait.
So there are some curiosities that go along with the Chupacabra, and probably like the most exciting one that I found talking about was when I mentioned about the Chupacabra being sighted in a certain place in Chile. Now, Chile is also famous for its, pretty sure it's Atacama Desert. So if you're familiar with the Atacama Desert, it's like a really dry, really high. It's high altitude.
It's like the highest desert in the world, I think.
Right. And so one of the claims about the Chupacabra was that Chilean UFO researchers claimed that the Chilean military had actually discovered 3 Chupacabra eggs. I don't know where they got the number from. 3 Chupacabra eggs in Chile's northern Atacama Desert. Eggs.
They hatched them.
That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Some Jurassic Park shit.
And that these eggs had been a product of a collaboration with American government scientists to hatch new chupacabras. And what lends credence to this claim is that they said that, like, kind of around the same time that the sightings in Chile were happening, you had like a suspicious operation or military exercise of the Chilean Air Force. Like, they had like a bombing, which kind of set off some alarms for some people, like kind of it shocked some people because they weren't really aware of that was going to happen. And which they claimed later was like a military bombing exercise in that area. So what kind of goes with this, UFO researchers put together this idea saying that perhaps that bombing exercise was actually just like the story of a military exercise is a cover up for them actually bombing a colony of chupacabras so they couldn't breed any further.
Oh, so there actually perhaps was a breeding population of chupacabras. We found out how dangerous they could be, so we bombed the shit out of them as only America can do.
Well, and to be honest, like, let's be real here for a second. If scientists found some eggs that they're like, hey, I think we can hatch these things, are those eggs not getting hatched. Like they're getting hatched. We can all agree on that.
100% they're getting hatched. They're going to do everything they can to get those eggs open.
I've seen the first Alien movie. I've seen Prometheus. I've seen Species.
Like the eggs are getting hatched. Like if they find preserved eggs and they're like, I think we can hatch these motherfuckers. We're hatching them. Like that's science doesn't care. If we've learned anything about like our government and science, doesn't care. Like it's just like anything in the name of science. And
can we hatch it and can we use it to kill things?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Is there a military application?
Absolutely.
Can we weaponize these chupacabras?
Can you turn raptors into laser guided weapons? And if you've seen Jurassic World, the answer is yes.
You can.
Apparently.
And you can also breed a raptor with a T-Rex, and you get a Dominus Rex?
Dominus Rex with the chameleon thing, which is actually now like there are descriptions of the chupacabra having a chameleon-like skin, so maybe it is a Dominus Rex. Like Dominus Rex had spikes on its back, scaly skin.
Gotta be.
It's got powerful hind legs.
Yeah. Only makes sense.
Where do you think they got the story for fucking Jurassic World Dominion or whatever the fuck that movie was called?
Realistically, Jurassic World was just in the Atacama Desert, and it was a real story. That's how they got it. That's when they had to bomb it. Instead of just letting life do its thing, we just bombed the Atacama Jurassic Park.
So I like the chupacabra is a fascinating creature, a creation that seems to have sprung up, just organically in Puerto Rico. If you go back, it's just in Puerto Rico itself, and then kind of taken hold in all of Central and South America. It's and now like universally known of like what it is. Like if you go to a Spanish speaking country, if you talk to Spanish speaking populations anywhere in the United States, like they will know what a chupacabra is, and it conjures up that image of this, this fierce blood-sucking beast that preys upon.
I'm going to say most anywhere. You forget Spanish speaking. You can go just about anywhere and say chupacabra, and people know.
Everybody knows.
Yeah.
Well, they know it's something. I did read a little bit into it, and there is some. There's possibly it is possible that the chupacabra is kind of an amalgamation of the or a product of the kind of like we said before. One of the theories that kind of popped up was that this was the product of some kind of, or one of the popular theories is that the chupacabra is actually some sort of genetic experiment gone awry, created by NASA or American scientists and like the government of the Central and South American countries, with their cooperation. And it kind of seems that around that time you kind of had this. You do have, usually in conspiracies, you have these anti-government sentiments that kind of pop up. And having the chupacabra pop up in a South or Central American country is probably not that unusual when you have a lot of, Latin American countries are steeped in folklore. Like folklore, both European, American, and like the native populations that were there before the colonization of the New World. You had this perfect mixing pot of all of the folklore and all of this. So you have a very rich environment for these kinds of things to kind of take hold. So one of the theories is that this is kind of like the chupacabra is an expression, or it's kind of an embodiment of the kind of anti-colonial sentiments of these countries, kind of put into this creature that is devouring their livelihood, that this alien creature that is in there, taking away their livelihood, much like the colonizers in the Western countries have come into some of these countries and taken advantage. These countries feel taken advantage of in some cases.
Sucked out their lifeblood.
So. Yeah. So, there's some. I could get on board with that sometimes. That's one of the sentiments that was expressed in some of the articles that I read. So I thought that was kind of interesting when I came across that as well.
Yeah, it's.
Right. I think there are some serious questions that need to be asked. So like when we went through all the chupacabra stuff, and you're kind of like how would you know if it's a chupacabra? You know, how do I know it's not a mangy coyote? Or how do I know that it's an actual alien beast that is from, you know, from outer space or from a completely different planet, right? And I kind of came across this, you know, for this case file, I was fortunate enough to get to read Tracking the Chupacabra, the Vampire Beast in Fact, Fiction, or Folklore by Benjamin Radford, who's probably one of the persons who has researched the Chupacabra more than anyone else. I think he was on board when they did it. They did the episode on Monster Quest or Animal X, one of the Discovery Channel shows. Like, he was there, investigated it. He's been doing it for like a decade. And he kind of came up with a nice little list of questions you need to ask yourself about, like, if you encounter some livestock deaths and you're wondering whether this is a chupacabra or not, there's some questions you should ask yourself. So first, was the animal actually seen attacking other animals? If it was it seen or videotaped sucking blood from its victims? Right? So you always get these reports of these bloodless things, but no one's ever really seen the chupacabra from most of the reports I read. No one's actually seen it in action, sucking blood from its victims. So it's one of the questions. Okay. Was a suspected chupacabra victim autopsied by a qualified veterinarian or medical pathologist? Right? Did this veterinarian or pathologist conclude that blood had actually been extracted from the animal? You know, I think that would probably be something that's something we talked about, and that would be an easy way to confirm, like, yes, this creature is actually a victim of the goat sucker, as it does suck blood. So you would hope that, you know, that would lend credence to the claim that it is an actual chupacabra. Does the suspected chupacabra have a mouth structure that would allow it to physically suck out the blood of its prey? So I mean,
what do you mean? I think it's like a proboscis, like with the mosquitoes?
Yeah, that's one way. And then but there are other ways that other creatures, you know, was it hemophagic? You
got two hollow fangs in your mouth.
Like, yeah, straws.
You just jab them in their neck, and then out it comes. Easy.
Yeah, and that would make sense. But the fact is, like, you'd still need a structure. Like, how do straws work?
Tell
me that.
You gotta suck air through the straw, or liquid through the straw, through pressure.
Like, those fangs would have to be connected to some type of structure that
it's called the anus, Dan. It's all one tube.
Right.
Yeah, the fangs are connected to your sinus cavity, which you can put pressure through, suck it right through. It's easy. I'm telling you, it works.
I will defer to you on that, our resident vampire expert.
So you sneeze out your fangs too, then shit shoots out.
Oh, gross! Yeah. Do you get like a sinus infection and like snot's like coming out your fucking teeth?
If you get an infection in your lower sinus, it can ooze out your tooth.
That's disgusting.
Pretty gross.
That's pretty gross. But yeah, so we're talking about some type of structure that would facilitate the sucking of blood, and maybe not even the sucking of blood. If you think about like vampire bats, for example, vampire bats don't really suck blood; they more like scrape and then
they lap it up,
scrape and lick, scrape and lick. You know, so possibly now. Has the suspected chupacabra saliva been scientifically tested for the specific anticoagulant and anesthetic properties that it must have to suck blood? Some of the reports said that the creature seemed, or you know, the victims of the chupacabra didn't seem to struggle, or they had no real signs of struggle.
Oh, I wonder if there's no defensive wounds either, right?
That's what some of the preliminary reports or observations from people who have, you know, claimed that they had an animal attacked by a chupacabra. They say that it doesn't look like these animals had struggled at all.
So it'd have to be able to like stun them somehow, or emit some type of, I don't know.
What's the stunning blast or hypnotism or something like that? Yeah, could be something like that.
Oh man, we talk about ETs all the time. How they fucking like you just get paralyzed. Mm-hmm. So if this thing is an ET beast,
I mean, most folklore from all over the world, you have in most cultures, if it's some type of vampiric beast, it's usually has some type of hypnotic power, right? Like, I mean, if you think of it, like most traditional European vampires, you look into their eyes, you get hypnotized. South and Central American, same thing. Like they're vampiric beasts or beasts that prey upon humans and are hypnotic and have hypnotic powers. Like, don't look into their eyes.
For Zal, he just plays guitar.
Yes,
and you're fucked.
Just start staring.
Trance.
Next thing you know.
And the last question you probably want to ask is like, has the suspected Chupacabra's digestive and intestinal tract been examined for specialized structures or enzymes that would suggest it could live on a diet of blood without succumbing to iron toxicity? Probably something you want to look at.
That's way above my pay grade.
I guess, yeah, you would have to really dive deep to know if it could be vampiric in nature.
So, I mean, if I were going to be like, this is a Chupacabra and 100% confirmed it's Chupacabra, those are probably questions that I would want answered for me. I don't know about anybody else. I mean, if you just want to look at it and you'd be like, that looks weird and that's Chupacabra, I can say that's fine.
If I see it and it's
take a little bit more.
It's walking around on 2 feet and it's got a spiky back, big fucking almond shaped black eyes with a little red pupil, and it's got 2 fangs. I know it's a Chupacabra. I don't need to know no scientific analysis of it. I just need to look at it and that's it. That's what I think.
Yeah.
If it looks like a Chupacabra and it's not walking on 4s and looks like a dog, it's probably a cryptid.
I mean, once you answer those questions, I'd be like, yes, this is 100% a Chupacabra. Also, yes, if I also saw a illuminated red-eyed creature hopping around on kangaroo feet with scaly skin and, three-handed claws, I'd also be like, yeah, I would accept that as well. Like if I were to firsthand see that, I'd be like, yes, that is a Chupacabra. I don't need to cut it open. That's 100% the goat sucker.
All right, there's been a lot of tales of the Chupacabra. It's been involved in many countries. But what do we think? What are our final thoughts? Let's start wrapping this one up. Who wants to go? Who wants to take it?
I don't believe the Chupacabra exists. I don't believe that this, how the mythos that has spawned since 1995, I don't believe that there's a cryptid, a beast that is wandering and draining livestock of blood. I don't believe that. What I do lean towards is that these are the same thing, like all these questions that we can't answer, like, oh, well, why are they sucking the blood? Like, how are they doing this? I'm like, that's because these are the same as like cattle mutilations. These are intelligent creatures, whether us from the future or a different race coming down, and they're doing research on the livestock. That's how they're able to catch them so easily. There's no defensive wounds. These things are drained of blood through advanced technology quickly and then left behind. And I believe that the only real person that ever caught one that saw it was perhaps the first sighting of it. And that's why we get that alien gray, because these are happening all over the world. And then people attribute this to Chupacabra, the myth of Chupacabra. And there must be a beast sucking. But to be honest, it doesn't quite make sense for anything to be just out there draining a full goat of blood and then leaving, for the questions that Dan brought up. That's why I lean towards that these things, the Chupacabra is a mythos that, because of all these people who have worked on ranches, have seen livestock mutilation that they couldn't explain, and these unexplained things. And now you have this legend of this beast that comes. So you can attribute these phenomenon that all these people and farmers and stuff from all around the world have experienced. They now have this it has to be a Chupacabra. Whereas I don't think it's any kind of beast. I think it's an advanced civilization researching these things, taking these animals, making incisions, drawing the blood, leaving them. That's what I think.
Oh, so research-based rather than beast-based.
I don't think it's a beast-based thing. Because these mutilations it's not new. They're not new. It's just this is taken off, and it's a way for people to explain off these phenomena, these ranch hands that have and ranchers and farmers who have seen these things, these that are out of the normal, because livestock gets killed all the time from predators and stuff. But the ones that are out of the normal that give them the spooks and stuff, this has been an easy lean toward Chupacabra. It has to be this. When Chupacabra. I don't think it's less, I don't think my theory is less amazing or less. I just don't think that there's a beast that's just eating blood from goats and stuff.
So no vampiric beast, some type of ET experiment collects
goat blood as their fucking fuel.
Goat, chickens, lamb, maybe some cattle,
right? Yeah. It's just looking at livestock. It's doing research in the livestock of humans around the world.
Boom! I like that. I'm going to continue with that. I think there's two versions of the Chupacabra. I think, as Braden said, some of them, especially the first one, seeing this upright walking beast with like a spine protruding and the big eyes. That could be something that we've talked about. We're like, oh, you can never find Bigfoot. It could be something as simple as Bigfoot as maybe it is some type of interdimensional fucking cryptid. It's here sometimes. Maybe it does prey on blood. It's hard to, obviously you, as Dan said, it's hard to know if you cannot answer the scientific questions we need to know. It's hard to know if there's a fucking Chupacabra that is draining blood. But I also think the Chupacabra story and coyotes or dogs with mange or the coyote wolf hybrid kind of gets merged into that. So I think that theory scientifically makes sense. This is it's mangy dog it's lost its hair. It's got some disease maybe. It doesn't look like a part of the natural world. Therefore, it's a Chupacabra. Therefore, it's a cryptid. But I think some of the stories could just be that. It could be a creature from somewhere else that maybe it doesn't exist here, but it's been cited a couple times. Its true purpose is hard to really, nail down. It could be scientific. It could have been placed here. What happens if you're like a ET, let's just say hypothetical, you're an ET overlord and Earth is your science experiment. And you're just like, hey, we have these creatures from this planet. Let's see what happens if we just drop them here for a couple of days. See what kind of shit they get into. And they get it. They go kill a bunch of livestock. Oh, okay, it's pretty predatory. Let's take it back, pull it back, on we go. So I think there's two versions of the Chupacabra. Just that it's an interesting point because the description of no genitalia or reproductive organs that'd be an interesting thing if this thing these people kind of describe this beast that seems to be a blend of things on Earth. If this is, say, like an overseer race coming down, what if they're just doing genetic testing, taking a bunch of traits from animals, dropping it back down, like you said, of Earth though, just some scrambling some DNAs, creating a beast, putting it down, being like, does this work here? And they're like, oh God, no, get it out of here. Right. Yep. And furthermore, going into that, if we talk about the missiles being exploded in that desert, maybe that was a joint effort between military and some sort of alien species of giving us technology to do this kind of stuff, and some sort of rogue creature was released. That's what you kind of popped in my head. That's pretty much my final thoughts.
I think it's pretty obvious what this thing is.
It says Chupacabra.
Yeah. So
it's pretty obvious. Yeah. It's in the name.
I guess it's pretty obvious where this thing originated from.
Where's that?
That's what I should have said. I think it's a Nazi super secret weapon.
Oh,
all right.
Okay.
I think they brought it over in one of the U-boats when they were escaping to South America. All right. I think it was a fucking deadly experiment that they brought over. I think they had it contained for a while, maybe till the early 90s, and ended up getting out. Now, initially, because when I thought about Chupacabra, my brain went to the dogs, the hounds. So I was thinking it's maybe some type of, Nazi hellhound.
Right.
And I'm like, it makes sense. Weaponizing dogs, they've been trying to weaponize dogs for a long time. They're great. They hunt in packs. They're smart. They'd be great to weaponize. Maybe juice them up with some super secret Nazi super soldier serum, right?
Okay.
You have packs of them. And instead of calling them a pack of Chupacabra, you call them the Chupacabros, like a whole group of them.
Oh, I like this.
Right?
I like
right?
this.
It's like a fucking pack of them. But then, you know, you look at the green scaly manfish that we've been talking about too. Like that sounds way more Nazi. That's fucking terrifying.
Scaly nut. Yeah.
So maybe he controls the Chupacabros. So maybe it's the green scaly guy and the dogs are his minions. And that's why we only get the dog. Only the dogs get caught, not the scaly manfish.
He's sending them in. Yeah.
He's the master, right?
They're just
Chupacabra.
jail cover.
Yeah,
They're just jail
right?
cover.
Chupacabra
Right, 'cause
sends
he-
in the Chupacabros.
Exactly. And then they know, right? Like when we find them, like, listen, these guys, they kind of look like fucking dags. That's purposeful. They want them to look like dags. So when people find them, be like, you really think that's just a dog? You're crazy.
And it could have 97% genetic sequencing of a dog. Could be very similar. So if you take you don't get the full, you just get a little sample. It'd be easily mistaken as a dog or a wolf or a coyote wolf hybrid. I like this. I like this theory.
That's what, I mean, I think it's obvious, to be honest with you.
I like that. Nazi super experiment gone rogue.
And all he lives on is blood. So the dags bring him the fucking blood that they extract from the fucking animals.
And they kind of regurgitate it to him when they get back.
Like baby birds, you know, like it's fucking gross. But
You know, this theory is,
Listen,
it checks all the boxes
Chile,
for me.
Like Chile borders Argentina,
it's right there.
right?
I mean,
and
come on,
Argentina
boys.
is where they say, you know, they theorize that a lot of Nazis fled
And there's
to.
still Nazi communities there.
Dan, take us home here. What do you think?
So if you reach back into the past of the Central American cultures, and first thing that comes to mind is probably the Aztec civilization. It was one of the largest, one of the most powerful, or one of those, you know. If you look back into those, and probably other Central South American civilizations as well, you can make the argument that they ran on blood. Aztecs especially, since you have you have a history of tens of hundreds of human sacrifices being performed at certain times and throughout their history. And there's this idea that it's like, I mean, if you look back into it, you have a very kind of likely suspect or something like that. There's descriptions of the Quetzalcoatl, one of their principal deities, the feathered serpent. And if you think, if you can't automatically make a link between that, the feathered serpent, and this creature that was reported to have these spiny protrusions, which in the first descriptions of it by Tolentino, she said that it looked very much like feathers were off the back. You have a civilization that ran on blood. You have a creature that feasts on blood. This kind of plugs into my theory I've kind of been working about. I've been talking with the guys about how you have certain beings or creatures. I mean, we kind of call them like whatever you want to call them, like psychic predators or something like this. You have these manifestations or something that come out and they kind of prey upon the anxieties, upon the fear, upon the raw emotion that is produced by us, the energy that comes from us as humans, as our minds produce this psychic energy that some people say that exists. And perhaps that this creature is just a throwback. Perhaps it is a relic. Perhaps it is something old that is, during the time of the Aztec empires, it existed. It was powerful. It was, that's what it kind of became that. But then when you had settlers come in, you had entire civilizations go, well, Aztecs were kind of downfall anyways, but like you had the entire civilizations collapsed. These animals, which were these creatures that were accustomed to being, fed or almost like a domesticated, I suppose, some type of relationship, symbiotic, parasitic, whatever you want to call it. These creatures kind of just wasted away or, fled into the jungles of South and Central America. Maybe some of them made their way over to Puerto Rico. And because they are primarily psychic, maybe blood is probably one of the conduits, one of the things that they kind of feed on, because that the blood is what contains, the raw essence of what is a person. And these creatures, they can't feed on humans anymore. And it feeds into another part of my theory where it's that humans have evolved a type of psychic shielding as what we are. When you think about like when in prior history about how humans in our ancient history pretty much referred to monsters and beasts and gods as physical beings, these things that actually existed, very literally existed, but now we picture them as more spiritual things. Maybe these were types of psychic predators. They were just feeding on us. But eventually, like adaptation, how it works in the world, and how it's, it's very it's presented in our world. It's evident. You can just look at it as evidence of, adaptation, evolution. We evolved defenses. And so they can't feed on humans anymore. So these creatures, they couldn't feed on humans anymore. So now they've turned to animals. They've turned to the lower orders of beasts in order to feed on them. So Puerto Rico at the time, when the first reports of the Chupacabra came out, Puerto Rico was in the grips of a huge rat population explosion. You had like entire, I'm picturing stuff like how they, you see those videos in Australia of these like just mice, rats everywhere, just exploding out. And perhaps that entire situation, that event, the psychic anxiety that the population of Puerto Rico was experiencing just drew them out of like where they were. And then somebody caught a glimpse of them, and then you see them. That was the original, like Braden said, that's one of the original Chupacabras that kind of manifests itself, in response to some of these psychic energies. It's like
it saw a crack in the door.
Yeah,
right.
I fucking like that a lot.
I like that a lot. Yeah.
So there's other parts to it. We're still working on it. I've told the guys.
Ditto.
Some of it. We'll get into it.
It's part of Dan's unifying theory of the weird. He's been working on for years here.
I'm working on it.
I like that a lot. We've evolved to, build up these barriers from these things.
Yeah, I fucking like that a lot. Anyways, Chupacabra, think what you want. There's a reason the myth lives on 26 years later.
Hey, weird shit's happening to livestock.
Weird shit happens. Maybe we talk about mutilations.
Livestock still die in mysterious ways.
They die. They're gone. Maybe it's lividity. Maybe it's straight up vampirism.
Maybe
Just saying. Could be anything. Could be there. Anyways, let's start wrap this episode up. Who do we got for Theorite of the Week?
That would be the Slain King. Oh, that's what Andrew told me.
Yeah. Right. That's his Instagram. Well, I don't know his real name, but that's his Instagram account.
The Slain King _apparel on Instagram. He made a Possumus Prime.
Yeah, and it's amazing.
We'll be sure to
immediately after we said it.
Yeah,
like immediately after it was created, we had the concept of what Sasquatch really is, a amalgamation of a number of opossums.
If you're looking on the live stream here, Braden's got it on his stream here. That's a Possumus Prime.
And he made a nice, we could put a nice background on it and everything too. Like
it is really good.
Looking really nice.
It is fantastic.
Yeah, we'll make sure to include that in our weekly roundup on socials. But the Slain King _apparel on Instagram, go follow him. It's amazing. So quick too, just like episode came out, like almost the next day, like here's a Possumus Prime, man.
He did make a fucking pretty badass Mice Tyson too.
And Mice Tyson was
better than mine.
Honorable mention for sure on the Mice Tyson.
That was the fastest t-shirt to ever get pulled from our t-shirt site was the original Mice Tyson.
Just for
Mike Tyson doesn't want anything to do with mice. I'll tell you that.
That took me 3 days to fucking make.
You can't fuck around with Mike Tyson, man. Any play on his name, instant pull.
He's got it locked down. Instant pull.
Unless you pay him.
If we reached out beforehand, it might have been all right, but it would have cost us $1 million. So, yeah, we can't do that.
We should have asked him when he was in fucking Kelowna.
When was Mike Tyson in Kelowna?
When they were hunting for fucking Ogopogo.
Oh, on the Monster Quest or whatever.
Mike Tyson Mysteries.
Mike Tyson Mysteries.
Right. Yeah, that's what it was.
I thought he was really there.
Oh, fuck. I thought he was really here too. I was like, did I miss something? All right, just before we do our quick sales pitch that we always do for Patreon, we get one thing that's always when someone's like, I'd love to support you, but I don't want to make another account. Patreon is a little too annoying. I don't like the app, blah, blah, blah.
I totally understand that. That would be me. I can't fucking...
Hey, Patreon is the king of fan support. They were the first. There's many who have come after. They've been good to us. The app has gotten better over the years. But We hear your calls. We hear your pleas. If you're one of those people who said, I don't want to create a Patreon account, it's too much work to just sign up and support your boys. We have a new system. There is a company called...
It doesn't replace the old system.
No.
It's
in conjunction.
Another system.
In parallel with Patreon, will continue as normal. We've said it on every episode for the last 150 case files. But if you don't like Patreon, you've tried it before, it's not for you. This new thing called Supercast, you go to alientheorist.com. This big bold letters say support us. You click on it and it takes you to a landing page, and it's just a simpler version of Patreon. It's the same thing. You put in your information. You put in you don't have to sign up. You just say, I want the classified feed. You pledge, I want to pledge for whatever, 1, 2, 3 months. You choose your device, either Apple or Android. You choose your preferred podcast player, whether it be Castbox or Pocket Cast, or actually, this is the very first one that actually uses, if you use Spotify. Spotify is our still most listened to app, even though we're not exclusive anymore. You just, in 3 steps, you're subscribed for whatever amount of time you want. You don't have to create an account. You still get access to the Discord. You still get access to the live stream. It's just an easier way, a separate way. You support your boys exactly the same. But yeah, we thought we'd try something new because some people are like, I hate Patreon. And I think, you know what? That's fine. It's still, Patreon stays the same, but there is now a new way, alientheorist.com. You can find everything there.
Yeah, it's up to you. If you didn't like Patreon and you wanted to, because some people do reach out to us and you want to support it, that we have another way. It might work for you better. Nothing changes. You just have more options.
I'll be perfectly clear. It's a little easier than Patreon, but we only have 1 tier on there right now. It's just the classified feed, all our bonus stuff, the Discord, the live streams, everything the same. It's just a little easier. So it's up to you.
Right. And if you don't know what Discord is, I mean, a lot of people do, a lot of people don't. Discord is a pretty much like a chat app. Like if you think about like kind of AOL chat rooms kind of things, like we've got our own little server. It's a voice and chat.
MSN Messenger. That was the cool shit went down on that.
That was, yeah.
Right.
It's very similar to that. We've built a nice little community on there. A lot of fun stuff goes on there. It's exploded in the last couple, I don't know,
month or two. Yeah.
Definitely. Month or 2 year. It's a wild ride. So if you want to, it's also the best way to kind of contact us. You can add us on there. It's the easiest way to kind of get a hold of us, or
it literally goes to every single one of our phones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you message us,
direct feed to each of the theorists.
Literally, basically text messages. We're on there. Well, I'm lurking all day.
We're always on there lurking.
Always lurking until I'm summoned with that @ symbol.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So it's a very cool app. Has a lot of stuff in there. Not just us, but other communities as well. But if you sign up with us, like you get access to that automatically, and that pops you on there.
To be honest, it's just a connection of like-minded people. If you like the show, there's other people just like you who like the show.
Bunch of like-minded singles in your area.
Yeah, there's a ton of people who have been on there. I've seen, on the Discord chat playing games together. People streaming video games
Lonely cryptids
on our server. Yeah. Right, like getting into discussions. There's tons of stuff. So the Discord honestly is probably, I would say, the best part.
Yeah, if you got more questions about it, just reach out to us. Email alientheorists@gmail.com. Socials, we'll fill you in. But let's get to it. This week's newest supporters. You just heard the sales pitch. We don't have to tell you. Go to alientheorist.com. You can choose Patreon or Supercast. Either one works for us. You get the same feed in the end. This month we got Megan Schmidt, Ben Gingerella with a full year pledge. Jimerson is back. Todd Dean goes up to the Ron Pond approved tier, and Spencer D does as well.
You got $5 per month pledged by Brandon J. $10 per month pledged by Michaela. I recognize that name. This is another Michaela. $25 per month pledged by Chris Moreno. $3 per month pledged by Faction.
Faction.
$10 per month pledged by Lady Jaybird.
You got $10 per month by Tyler Hall. Another tenner by Coleman Stewart. $5 pledge by Isabella Marie. A big old Ron Pond approved $25 pledge by Distilling for a Living. And a $3 pledge by Blake Stian.
Woo! Thank you very much for supporting the show.
As we always say at the end of these things, keep those eyes on the skies.
See you in after hours.
Peace.
Man, that sunset is gorgeous.
Grill, patio, sunset. Hard to get better than that. Unless you're browsing Carvana's inventory while you soak it all in.
Oh, burger time.
So sit back, get comfortable. Carvana's got thousands of cars under $20,000 just waiting for you.
I could stay here forever.
Carvana, where car buying meets comfort, meets convenience. Download the app or visit Carvana.com today.
Man, that sunset is gorgeous.
Grill, patio, sunset. Hard to get better than that. Unless you're browsing Carvana's inventory while you soak it all in.
Oh, burger time.
So sit back, get comfortable. Carvana's got thousands of cars under $20,000 just waiting for you.
I could stay here forever.
Carvana, where car buying meets comfort, meets convenience. Download the app or visit Carvana.com today.